This must be ground zero.
And that must be the
Hey
machine.
parents, Carmine here with your video review of Dead Space 3.
So I guess this is it, huh?
Yeah, Ellie.
The Dead Space series was originally designed to fit into the horror genre of games, presenting a story that made every battle a fight for your life against an increasingly twisted and unfamiliar horde of enemies. But somewhere along the way, Dead Space 3 has lost its original design and has instead become a sort of zombie shooter game. The enemies are twisted and unfamiliar, but the atmosphere necessary for a truly scary game just isn't there anymore. Dead Space 3 pits the player in a final struggle against two forces: the spider-like Necromorphs that blindly want to consume all life in the galaxy, and the human Unitologists, whose religion demands the forced assimilation of all humanity into the Necromorph ranks. Keep in mind that the Necromorphs aren't traditional zombies, so the anti-zombie mantra of "shoot it in the head" doesn't apply here. The most effective way of killing Necromorphs is shooting their limbs off. The player will have a wide variety of firearms to use towards this end. Most of them will fire simple projectiles that will, on their own, cause a small amount of blood. However, it will take a number of shots to take off an enemy's limb, and considering that usually the player will have to sever 3 limbs before an enemy dies, that blood adds up. The game also actively encourages the player to run up to enemies and stomp them. This usually causes the enemy to drop an item, and helps to prevent the enemy from getting back up. Some enemies like to pretend that they're dead, only to get up and attack the player when his back is turned. Stomping them keeps this from happening, but also showers the player in blood and gore. While I tended to stick to a single reliable weapon, the player can build an arsenal to use against enemies. Most weapons will have similar effects, but some weapons can be more devastating than others. For example, the player can build a flamethrower that can decimate smaller enemies that are more difficult to kill with traditional firearms. There are weapons that fire electrical shots that sever limbs across a long line, weapons that fire shotgun rounds that can blast enemies back, and attachments that can add extra effects onto almost any type of damage. The player can even rip the pointer limbs off of dead enemies and shoot it back at living enemies, often pinning them to the walls in the process. While the violence has been toned down and much of the scary atmosphere lost from previous games in the series, Dead Space 3's constant violent gameplay led us to give this game a recommended age of 16 years old. For the full written review, including the extra categories, log on to SideStoryGames.com.